Hello and welcome back to the top 8 of the Apex Gaming $2,000 Pioneer Open. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We have 8 players left in the room, and Ross, why don't you give us a quick rundown of the 8 players and the matchups and their archetypes?
Okay, so looking at our bracket, on one side we have 1 seed Daniel Staup on Mono Green Devotion, and 8 seed Brendan Lane on Mono Green Devotion. We will not be watching them. They are the one match that is off to the side,
Yeah,
so
we
no
moving over
worries
there.
there.
We can only have 3 feature matches at once, and they're not on.
Yes, the match we will be watching, however, is the other match on their side of the bracket. 4 seed Andrew Wolfius on Boros Heroic against 5 seed Kyle Montgomery on Bant Lotus Field. Two of the cooler decks we've seen today, both using cards from Wilds of Eldraine. Kyle Montgomery, of course, splashing in the typical Azorius Lotus Field control deck for Up the Beanstalk. And Andrew Wolfius incorporating Monstrous Rage as one of his pump spells to leave behind that monster roll token.
It looked really good.
Yeah, looked excellent. This is a rematch actually of round 3 that we saw on camera, excuse me. Wolfie is taking it down very quickly, won game 2 on turn 3. So Kyle Montgomery, got to be sort of kicking the magic gods here. There's a ton of mono green that I'm sure he'd love to play against, and unfortunately gets matched up against this hyper-aggressive deck. He does have some good tools for the matchup. March of Otherworldly Light as early removal. He has 3 copies of Doom Scar as a cheap sweeper, some Farewells if he can get to them.
Yeah.
It's just a question of whether he can survive and get to those powerful cards. The other half of the bracket, these are our backup feature matches. We have 2 seed Jacob Heckert on Mono Green Devotion against 7 seed Cody Hill on Gruul Vehicles, and then 3 seed Mason Esports Clark on Mono Green Devotion against 6 seed Franklin Folks on Mono White Humans.
All right, so let's do a little predictor here. First match, you said Mono Green versus Mono Green. I think Mono Green's going to win that one.
Yeah, got to give the edge to Daniel on the play, but
I was
otherwise
just gonna-
really close.
Yeah, I was just making a joke. Boros Heroic versus Bantfield. Boros Heroic, I think, is going to take it down. We watched that earlier. He just got squished, right?
Yeah, I'd give Boros the edge.
Green Devotion versus Gruul Vehicles. I kind of like the Gruul Vehicles side. It's hard to root against Mono Green Devotion against another elf deck, though.
Yeah, I think
On the draw, too.
I think Devotion's got the edge there. Gruul Vehicles, unless you can get down a really fast boat, Zika's Chariot just not very good in the matchup. Is the problem.
And our reigning Pioneer champion, Mason Esports Clark, on Green Devotion versus Mono White Humans. You got to root for the champ, right?
Franklin Folks, one of our more decorated players on the tour. I like Mono White's matchup there.
Was he in SCG last week? Did he do well in
made
that?
the finals.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
With Rakdos Evoke, but his build of Mono White Humans in particular is a more classic build. Still has 4 copies of Brave the Elements,
Sure.
and that's the most important card in the Mono Green matchup. They flood the battlefield with creatures, try to stop you from attacking, but all the blockers are green, so one Brave the Elements can usually finish them off. So I like Folks in that matchup.
All right. Well, the players are seated in the feature match area and ready to go. So without further ado, let's head on down there and let them start their match. This is the top 8, the quarterfinals, and we're going to be watching a really nice one here. These players have hopefully already finished mulliganing. Maybe not. On your left, Kyle Montgomery on Bant Lotus Field. He's our 5th seed. He's going to be on the draw. On your right, Andrew Wolfius playing Boros Heroic. This is actually a team kill scenario, I believe. Both these players came up in the same car. They're both on Team Swish Gaming. We had a contingent of Swish Gaming players here at our event because we invited Steven Dykeman.
So he brought the crew.
He brought the crew, and they're crushing. Both in the top 8 here. But now it's a dirty rematch from earlier, right? Boros Heroic hopefully going to take it down on the play, but looks like they're both maybe heavily mulliganing for good hands.
Yeah, that this is a matchup, especially on Kyle's side. He has to have the early interaction to stay alive in this matchup. Wolfius can be a little bit looser with his range of keeps, but he does want to put on early pressure because if he lets Kyle's engine get online, get a Lotus Field or 2, you can, chain a bunch of discontinuities together, start drawing cards off of all those up in the beanstalks, and have a bunch of Teferis and powerful sweepers like Farewell, and there's not much Wolfius can do about it. So he definitely needs a fast start, but not a super fast one.
All right, players are drawing their opening hands. Wolfius here. We'll see if any mulligans have happened. We'll know based on the cards they start putting back or if they just start playing.
And can't get a great look at Wolfus's hand. I guess it's Wolfus.
Can we get confirmation? I thought I had an L in it last time he was on camera. All right, we have a Sajiri Shelter here played as a land on the backside on turn 1 for Wolthius. We're off to the races. Hallowed Fountain for Montgomery on 1 and Wolthius on 2. Going to go for the powerful Illuminator Virtuoso, but Montgomery has the answer with March of Otherworldly Light and is pitching, I believe that's a Doomscar to take care of it. Wolthius back his way, finds favorite Hoplite, bunch of pump spells in hand. Let's see if he gets to attack with the next turn. Excuse me. Here's an Ancestral Anger that's going to draw a card and put a counter on it. And now Montgomery, let's see if he has the powerful Strict Proctor into Lotus Field. I see the 2-drop creature. Might want to play it just to be defensive a little bit. Doesn't have it. Just going to say go. Holding up some other interaction.
Not under too much pressure at this point.
Yeah, the Illuminator Virtuoso is very threatening, but the favorite Hoplite, it's a little small for now, but it can get big quickly, especially when you're chaining cycling effects like Ancestral Anger and Defiant Strike. Now, Wolthius has been playing a bunch with this deck, it seems like, because all of his cards are alt art, foil, best, coolest iterations of each one. It's making our life a little more difficult because we have trouble seeing what those cards are, but that looks like a Defiant Strike there. He drew a card. The God's Willing looks pretty similar.
We'll see how aggressive Wolthius wants to get. There's not a ton of spot removal in the Bant Lotus Field deck, so you don't need to be always holding up mana for the God's Willing.
All right, here comes an attack for 4. Montgomery down to 4. Let's see if Wolthius wants to play another threat, or if he has another threat to play. Doesn't, says go. In turn, we're going to cycle Spar's headquarters and go back Montgomery's way. Let's see if he can find some action or some reaction here to take care of this favorite Hoplite. Wolthius had the option to juice it a little more. Chose to hold on, maybe to hold up a couple copies of God's Willing. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
Still no Lotus Field action for Kyle Montgomery. That's the card he's going to need to start pulling very far ahead.
Montgomery does find 4th land, though. It's a Boseiju Who Endures.
It could be representing the Wandering Emperor.
Yeah, I believe I saw one peeking out in hand earlier as well. Now, here's a weird question. Do you think you should deploy the Wandering Emperor inside combat, or do you think you should do it after combat? Because I think it's roughly 0% to actually exile anything. And, you just want to, like, force the God's Willing out of hand, basically.
And you save yourself a little bit of damage if they do
Right.
God's Willing it.
It's an old trick for fighting Infect. All right, well, a couple more pump spells here. Let's see if Wolthius wants to jam on in, and if he has the God's Willing. We're going to attack with Vigilance. And now the Wandering Emperor is going to be deployed as a way to provide a blocker. Going to minus and make a 2/2 because the creature is tapped.
And Monstrous Rage will give the monster roll, so that's now a trampling attacker. This looks like an attack for 12.
The trample on it's an enormous deal.
Yeah, because that's going to stay around. Wow, it just played straight through the Wandering Emperor. Still has a mana up for God's Willing. Gonna need, Kyle Montgomery probably going to need a sweeper here.
All right. Let's see if he's got it. Wolthius still has an untapped white source. That is a Sajiri Shelter, but it's the backside. He just shortcuts, leaves it face up. See that often with Spikefield Hazard out of, is it Phoenix? Here comes Strict Proctor.
That is not going to do anything. I guess you do need 1 more damage if you're Andrew Wolthius to deal lethal through a 3 toughness blocker.
Did not activate the Wandering Emperor in any capacity.
Curious.
Perhaps a mistake, perhaps just knows that they're dead. Here's the Monster Swiftspear.
That will add the necessary point of power to make this a lethal attack.
Going to spend 1 mana to play.
Homestead Courage.
Yeah, Homestead Courage from the graveyard. And this is going to be a threatening lethal attack. See if Montgomery has an answer here. We're going to go blocking the big ol' favorite Hoplite, but with the trample, this looks like it's enough. We'll see if Montgomery has anything else.
Yeah, this is 8 coming through. You got 5 trample from the favorite Hoplite and 3 damage from the Swiftspear.
All right, game number 1 goes to Boros Heroic, and that's 3 times now, 3 games in a row, we've seen Boros Heroic just squish this awesome Bant Lotus Field control deck. That this deck is designed to prey on more mid-range strategies, slower decks, things like Mono Green Devotion, just like non-interactive, non-attacking decks.
That brings Kyle Montgomery's record in this tournament to 8-2 against not Andrew Wolthus and 0-3 against Andrew.
All right, as these players are shuffling up here, getting their sideboards together, I'm going to have my main man Ross give us his expert analysis on what he thinks these players will be doing when they take a look at their sideboards.
Hey, Kyle's sideboard is 3 Dovin's Veto, 3 Temporary Lockdown, 2 Dragonlord Dromoka, 2 Narset's Reversal, 2 Thought Distortion, 1 Ether Gust, 1 Dream Trawler, and 1 Divine Smite. I like the big creatures, Dragonlord Dromokas and Dream Trawler, and I like the Temporary Lockdowns as additional sweepers.
Yeah, I think Lockdown's great. Obviously, it has a little bit of anti-synergy with Strict Proctor, so you want to protect yourself from that by sequencing correctly. We actually had that come up at the last Pioneer event we had where someone was playing the Strict Proctor Lotus Field deck, and they also cited in their temporary lockdowns, and they cast one with their own Strict Proctor in play without the ability to pay for it, and it was a whole kerfuffle.
Yeah, but that's pretty easy to avoid if you just play carefully. I mean the dyssynergy, not the game rule violation.
Yeah.
So definitely the lockdowns will be coming in.
All right. Well, on the other side of things, we have that Boros Heroic deck. Let's take a look at that sideboard, Ross, and tell me what you think's coming in.
So we've got our 1 Gigantha as a companion. We have 3 copies of Showdown of the Scalds, 2 Destroy Evil, 2 Flowstone Infusion, 2 Lauren's Escape, 2 Rydane God of the Worthy, 2 Rending Volley, and 1 Rest in Peace. I love the Showdowns as an additional piece of card advantage for long games. I love the Rydanes to make the expensive sweepers and other powerful spells in the Lotus Field deck significantly more expensive. And I like the Lauren's Escape as additional protection. It not only protects against the spot removal in the deck, it also can give your creature indestructible so that it might protect it from the Doom Scars in the deck.
Right.
Unfortunately, Indestructible doesn't do anything against the exile effects of Temporary Lockdown and Farewell.
Yeah. All right. Well, as these players are shuffling up here for game number 2, let's take a moment and shout out our sponsors. Thanks to G Fuel Energy Formula for keeping us energized throughout these long days of Magic commentary. I had one earlier. It was quite good. Also, shout out to Wings Etc. Wings Etc. Grill and Pub. We were there last night. We're probably going to go there again tonight. They have great food, and it's a good time.
Jerk Tots.
Oh, yeah. That's money right there. I actually stole one of Ross's. I don't even know if you knew. Ultimate Guard also providing huge swag bags for our top 8 competitors with such hits as the Archive deck box to hold your whole cube or a bunch of commander decks. That giant Archive deck box is so sweet. But also the Boulder deck boxes, Katana sleeves, and these top 8 players are walking out with some of that swag. And anyone who plays in an Apex Invitational Qualifier will get some of those as well.
That includes the events run at our satellite stores.
Yeah, so make sure to check out apexgaming.gg after the match, after the tournament, and find an invitational qualifier near you. Now, game has started here. Wolfius, no turn 1 play. And Montgomery here just going to play a couple of pathways, and then we're going to play Doomscar off to the side. Whoa, misplaced Ginger, fellow Pioneer Gamer, sending us a big raid. Thank you so much. I saw you tweet about the Pioneer Challenge today. How'd you do, buddy?
Welcome, Raiders. We are in the quarterfinals of our Pioneer 2K Open and Apex Invitational Qualifier here at the Apex home store in Caldwell, Ohio.
Bingo. Thank you so much. We have the quarterfinals underway here. Andrew Wolthius took down game number 1 with Boros Heroic. Boros Heroic, you say? Isn't that a deck from last year?
It's 2023. It's back.
Yeah, monstrous rolls and all. Here's Strict Proctor and Lotus Field. This is going to come down. Now, on the other side of the table, this Bant Lotus Field, we've been seeing a lot of it. Mostly it's up the beanstalk as the big Bant edition, and it's been quite strong in this Doomscar heavy deck.
And no 1-drop from Wolthus this game, and a turn 2 Dreadheart Arcanist, which is a solid card in the deck, but one that doesn't apply a ton of pressure. It generates a lot of card advantage. So this is a draw from Wolthus that is going to give Montgomery more time to execute his own game plan, and we see Montgomery take advantage of it and go for the Proctor into Lotus Field on turn 3 instead of holding up some piece of interaction.
All right, here's Ancestral Anger and a Monastery Swiftspear together. This is going to give some food for the Dreadhorde Arcanist. We're going to cast that. Give a little bit of a buff to the other Dreadhorde Arcanist while Prowse pumping the Monastery Swiftspear and drawing a card. It's a great turn from Wolthius, and if he has a piece of protection like Lauren's Escape, he can survive this Doomscar that's coming next turn. But it seems like he's just trying to push some damage here. and ultimately doesn't really care that much about a Doomscar. Probably has a couple more threats in hand.
I did see a temporary lockdown in Montgomery's hand. Could deploy that next turn, pay the 2 for his own Proctor, and make it a 2 for 2. Ooh, gets another Lotus field for his troubles, and then end that 1-point attack, of course.
Yeah, and then pops with the Doomscar. This is a huge mana buff for Kyle Montgomery, and he's looking like he's about to take over this game, and it's turn 4. This is scary.
Might finally take his first game off of Andrew in this tournament.
Yeah, all it took was Strict Proctor and a couple Lotus fields and a Doomscar.
And these players did play in round 3. If you missed that one earlier today, it is Montgomery's only loss in the tournament. Wolfus, of course, going undefeated throughout the Swiss.
All right, Voltius looking at a 10th District Legionnaire. This honorary prowess creature, or not prowess, heroic creature, has haste. It's very powerful in these decks because of that. Here's Otawara in response to, I believe, a Defiant Strike. We're going to bounce Dreadful Arcanist back to hand. A nice use of that. And can't protect with God's Willing because God's Willing gives protection from a color in Otawara, while taps for blue is a colorless source.
Bam. So instead of redeploying the Arcanist, goes for a 10th District Legionnaire to try to apply more pressure, but I think the damage has already been done from the slow start for Wolfus this game. Montgomery's got his mana base all set. There's a Thespian stage, so we can make a third copy of Lotus Field, and Kyle Montgomery is off to the races.
All right, another haste creature. Here's Monster Swiss Spirit going to come in for 1. We'll see if Montgomery has any answer. His Discontinuity. We're going to see if we're casting this with the Swiss Spirit on the stack. That'll exile it. Just because it came in play tapping and attacking doesn't mean that it's actually tapping and attacking.
Yep. Does not get a chance to resolve. The turn has already ended.
Okay, back Woltius' way. We're going to draw for turn. Kyle Montgomery operating at instant speed for the most part. There's a lot of big spells in his deck. We'll see if he finds any card advantage. Here's that Dreadful Darkness from earlier. We're going to go ahead and play it again. But in response, we're going to Discontinuity. And with it on the stack, that's going to exile it. We're also going to use some of our mana to make some Thespian Stage copies as well.
Yeah. Montgomery just needs to find one of his heavy hitters, whether it's Teferi Hero of Dominaria.
What about this hitter?
Memory Deluge.
How's your Beanstalk looking?
Or one of those big creatures like Dream Trawler or Dragonlord Dramoka.
All right, land number 5. Voltius getting flooded a little bit, but mostly Montgomery just has the answer at all times. Only one card left in hand, I think. Here we have 10th District Legionnaire and an Ancestral Anger, and this is going to resolve.
Yeah, we'll get the Scry from the Heroic trigger on the Legionnaire before we draw the card from Ancestral Anger.
Okay, so we are almost tapped out. I don't think we're going to be able to do lethal here with just the 10th District Legionnaire, but we can put a dent in that 12-point life total, and it's going to be up to Montgomery to have something next turn to stop this 10th District Legionnaire, or else it might be threatening lethal.
Yeah, 4 points is going to drop Montgomery to 8, and it's a 3/3 Legionnaire already. He could definitely be dead if he doesn't have anything left.
All right, Cycle Spar's headquarters. If you're Woltius, you know that's a good sign. That means we don't have a whole lot going on. Just a ton of mana. We'll see if we can find a Deluge or another payoff. Here's another big cycle. Any Beanstalks in chat? We found Wandering Emperor. And if I'm Montgomery, I'm going to main phase this because there are ways that Woltius can give his creature vigilance. And if they have God's Willing, you're just dead anyway, I think. So, I don't know. Maybe you try to make a 2/2 to block instead of -2ing.
Nah, just go for it.
Yeah?
Make him have it.
Yeah. Well, he's probably got it. Blocking might just straight up be safer. But Monstrous Roll gets around blocking pretty well, right?
Yeah, and God's Willing gets around blocking too.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Andrew Woltius untaps. That Wandering Emperor sitting in Kyle Montgomery's hand. Not going to draw a card off the Beanstalk. Perhaps might want to think of a different card to play in that flex slot just because it doesn't work with Beanstalk. We want a little more Beanstalk synergy for sure. But we got to keep the mana value low. And we got to keep the interaction high. Land number 6 for Woltius. Not where you want to be, but still gritful since he was able to cycle so many things earlier. There's another hasted 10th District Legionnaire.
That's 5 damage on the surface. Won't take much to get it up to a lethal attack with Kyle Montgomery at 8 life.
Yeah, something like a single Homestead Courage can give both of them vigilance until the end of turn and a counter, and that would threaten lethal. We're going to go for a monstrous. What's it called? Monstrous Fury?
Monstrous Rage.
Monstrous Rage, and that creates the monstrous roll token, which does grant trample. We'll see if Montgomery wants to respond with the Wandering Emperor. This is threatening lethal. We have Wandering Emperor in response. We'll see what Montgomery wants to do with it. We're going to try to minus. We're going to go. God's willing. Andrew Wolthius defeats Kyle Montgomery, his carmate and friend and teammate from Switch Gaming, 2-0, and that's a 4-0 clean sweep on the day. And that's honestly the only losses Montgomery's had all day, right?
Yeah, tough tournament for Montgomery. That game looked really good for him. Just couldn't find one of those heavy hitters to take control of the game, so Wolthius had enough to crawl over the finish line.
You know, it's funny. Dykeman, defeated by both his teammates in the tournament, knocked him out. And now Wolthius defeating his carmate Montgomery in the top 8 and being his only loss on the day. It's mono team kills.
That means he gets shotgun.
You know. And he gets to pick where to go to dinner.